Hi, everyone. Welcome to Talk It Up Tuesday. We are here today with Anna Lewis, who's our volunteer coordinator, to talk a little bit about volunteer opportunities at the Turning Point. But before we get started, I wanted to take a moment and just tell a little more about our organization. So we are the Turning Point. We serve survivors of sexual violence here in the North Texas area. Our mission is to provide counseling, education, and advocacy for those impacted by sexual violence. Our crisis hotline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's 1-800-886-7273. Well, welcome, Anna. So glad you could join us today.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm super happy to be here. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to jump on here and talk about volunteer opportunities.
Yeah, I wonder if we could start out, if you could just talk about the importance of volunteers to our organization in general.
Absolutely. So volunteers are the absolute backbone of our organization. We truly could not do this without volunteers. I know everyone says that, but truly we could not meet our mission if we did not have volunteers. During business hours, it's the staff that assists with the hospital accompaniments and the crisis hotline, but it's those tough weekend, overnight, evening hours that we really need help with. And that's where our volunteers play a key role. And they're always willing to support when we need them. So we could not do this without them. And not only do they support staff, but they also provide a voice to all of our survivors of sexual violence. And most importantly, they listen to them and they believe them.
So I'm not sure I remember right, but were you actually a volunteer before you came on full staff?
Yes, I was. So I joined the Turning Point as a volunteer coordinator in October of 2022. But actually back in 2014, almost 10 years ago, I was able to be a volunteer here. I was a college student. I need a college credit or a volunteer credit for a class. So I Googled volunteer near me. And of course, I found the Turning Point, and little did I know it would change my life. So I got to volunteer back when things weren't digital. It was a different time, and it was amazing and it made a forever impact on me. And I knew that this was my purpose in life. So, I went down different routes, but here I am. I'm back at the Turning Point serving survivors of sexual violence. So, yeah.
Oh, that's so terrific. That's special that you taken this experience that you've had and now you're able to really fulfill your kind of career purpose aspirations with this.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So when you were a volunteer, I know that we have both in-person and remote opportunities. Maybe you could tell a little bit about that and then maybe the benefits or of kind of each one. Every role seems to have its own unique qualities. So
yes, great question. I love answering this question because, people want different things. So thankfully, we're able to kind of cater to people's needs and wants. So I'll start with in-person first. So with our in-person volunteer opportunities, I like to break it down into two categories. So the first one is direct support services, such as hospital advocacy. That is where you are directly with the survivor. You are there with them during the forensic exam. You're there to provide support, resources, and occasionally a hand to hold. So you are physically there with the survivor during the most vulnerable time in their life. The other option is administrative opportunities, and that can look like going to volunteer or outreach events. We always need people for that. Or even coming into the office to help create materials, packets, and bags for survivors. There's direct support services and then admin. So those are the two in person that I like to touch on. And then moving into remote opportunities, I'm so excited that we have this option. Especially right now, my own cousin was able to partake in a remote opportunity. So I love talking about it. But our main remote opportunity is to become a crisis advocate. All you need is a cell phone. We've got a dispatching service. So if you want to become a crisis advocate, this is where you assist with our 24/7 national hotline. You would need to complete training, of course. You'll be a certified volunteer advocate. And then you can pick 1 to 2 shifts per month. You answer a call, and that's you fulfilling a crisis advocate role. So you can do that anywhere in the United States. My cousin lives in Colorado. She's currently going through training right now to become a crisis advocate. So I'm super passionate about anyone that wants to support us remotely. Additionally, another way to assist is with any social media engagement. If that's a skill or something that you're looking to enhance, or you know that you're pretty good at this stuff, that's another need that we have, which our communication manager directly oversees. So those are kind of the in-person and remote. I could talk about both of those all day long, but in a nutshell, that's what those 2 opportunities look like.
Yeah, so I was actually a volunteer here for about 4 years, and I loved that remote opportunity. That is the only thing I did. I had 3 young kids, a baby at home, and I was able to take calls overnight. So the shifts run, I believe, from go ahead and tell me what the shifts run, because
Yeah, of course. So we've got a few different ones. So if you want to do during a weekday shift, that'll be a 16-hour shift. So that'll be from 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. So as soon as the staff clocks out, our advocates clock in. So you're that evening and overnight coverage. So for me, if I were to take a crisis shift, an evening shift, I still carry on throughout my day. I'll still go to the gym. I still go grocery shopping, take care of my kiddo. I just make sure that there's always a route of escape to answer a call. So that's the first daytime or during the week shift. On the weekends, we do have a 24-hour shift. So that would be 9 a.m. to 9 a.m. the next day. So it's a little longer, but it's a weekend. So if you're able to commit, we love when people can take 24-hour shifts because that's a huge, huge opportunity.
yeah, absolutely. And it worked really well for me as a parent taking that overnight shift, because we get some calls, but it's not like you're up all night with calls. I think maybe at the most, probably 4 or 5 calls, and then some nights you don't get any.
Yeah, 4 or 5 is a reach now. So typically when I'm doing interviews and I'm explaining, the frequency of calls and what that's truly like, because you hear crisis call and that's pretty intimidating. But on average, what we're seeing over the past 6 months is it's 2 per shift. So it's and one call maybe 3 minutes, another call maybe 20. Granted, some calls may be an hour. You never know what you're going to get, but typically you may not even get a call in a shift. And at most I've ever seen was 5 in a shift. But that was during a 24-hour shift. So it kind of depends. But it's not as overwhelming as some people may believe it is.
Right. Yeah. And I think sometimes people hesitate, but this is such an impact to make on our organization for just a little bit of time at night that it takes from you, but covering that shift is really key to making sure that those survivors that need us find somebody willing to listen on the other end of the line and help connect them.
Yeah, it's pretty impactful. And whether it's a question about counseling, because we've got free counseling services, or even providing a healthy coping skill, it could be one simple question, and that volunteer took the time to answer their call, provide them the answer, and then that's it. And you could have changed their life. You never know the impact that you're making. But just taking these shifts, you're doing such good work by becoming a volunteer and helping these survivors through this difficult time.
One of the things that I've heard from different other organizations, maybe they're sororities, maybe they're just different groups that get together, they always wonder, do we have any sort of group volunteer activities?
Great question. I love this question too. We are always looking for group volunteers, always. We may not always have something readily available, but we're willing to create anything. If there's a group out there, a part of a church or a school, and they've got a mission in their mind, please reach out to us and we'll collaborate and we'll think of anything that we could do to not only help your group serve, but to help our survivors. But a perfect example of a current need right now is for a group of volunteers to start writing letters to survivors. This initiative has not been started yet, but we are really wanting to start implementing this. And it may seem like a small task, but these letters, having them readily available to give to survivors would be amazing. The letters would give them something positive to look back on during one of the most challenging times in their lives. So writing letters is huge, and we could never have too many. We need hundreds. So that's the number one thing. Letter writing would be amazing. And additionally, we could always use groups to help support us at events. That is huge. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and we've got lots and lots of opportunities. So whether the groups want to come help set up or tear down, that would be huge. Or even just be a face of awareness. The more faces we have to support this mission, the better. So the opportunities are endless, especially, if a group has an idea, send it our way. We would love to start a new initiative. Super open to it.
Well, that's terrific. So one of the things that you mentioned earlier was social media engagement. And I want to mention, just for anybody out there who maybe doesn't quite feel like fully committing or volunteering at this time, just engaging with us on social media, sharing our posts, connecting others to resources also makes a huge impact to our organization. So the more likes, the more shares, the more, and we're always reaching out, especially to volunteers, to survivors, to help create content, as well as create the substance when we go out and do education programs. And as we're evaluating our services that we provide to the community, knowing kind of what the gaps are, what the experiences are of people is always extremely, extremely helpful.
Yeah, very helpful.
Well, so Anna, I guess my last question would be, if somebody right now is listening and they want to volunteer, what would you suggest that they do?
Yes, of course. So there's kind of two routes that they could do. You could go to Google, type in the Turning Point, and go to our website. You could also type in theturningpoint.org, and then you could click on what you can do, click on volunteer. That will directly link you to apply. Those applications directly go to me. So I try to reach out to everyone that applies within 1 to 2 days. I think
Try to pull it up here on the screen.
Yay!
So this is the Turning Point website.
Yes.
And so if you go to what you can do,
Yep.
And then you click on volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is our volunteer page with all the different opportunities, right?
Yep.
Oh, and there's an apply button.
Apply. Super quick, super easy to navigate. Just need your name, contact information, and you can even specify what aspect of volunteering you want to do. Because if you just want to do special events, that is okay. Click special events and send it my way. If you think the crisis hotline is more up your alley, click crisis. You can click multiple. It is up to you what sparks your interest.
So all of those applications go directly to you. And then what happens after that?
Great question. So once I get your application, I will reach out to you, start a conversation. We will complete an interview and a screening process. That's step one. That screening process does include a background check. These informal interviews take about 15-ish minutes, just kind of a baseline, what you're interested in, the mission of the Turning Point, just to make sure that you're a good fit for us and we're a good fit for you. So once we're done with that, we'll move into step two. We will discuss training dates and we'll sign you up for training. So we do quarterly trainings, 4 trainings throughout the year. So we'll talk about your schedule and your availability. And from there, you will decide when you want to do training. It's entirely up to you. It is pretty heavy content, and training is 40 hours. It's divided between 3 weeks. So it'll be 10 sessions, 7 virtual and 3 in person. And we know, life happens. So if you miss a few, that is okay. But that step 2 is signing you up for training and getting you through training and getting you certified. You will get your
just really quick. So that training only applies for those people who are interested in being an advocate, correct? Or doing direct client services. So if somebody is not interested in quite committing to the training yet, they can always do administration or some of the different event activity support without doing the training, but do they still need to do a background check?
Great
That first
question.
step?
Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, so administrative volunteers, it depends if you're going to be working with our databases. If you're going to be seeing personal information, we will do a background check out of the confidentiality of our clients. But if it's just going to be events or coming in to help prepare materials, no background check is needed. We'll still do a quick informal interview, but no 40-hour training is required. You can come in whenever you want. You could start day of. You could show up, if I'm there, and start right then and there. But if you do want to do the advocacy route, that you'll be required to do the 40-hour training.
Okay, perfect. So once somebody finishes the training, then what happens?
Yes. So once you finish training, you'll be required to do 2 shadows. This is to ensure that you're comfortable and you're confident in becoming an advocate. You go through training, you hear us talk about it, you ask questions, but that's you actually taking those steps of becoming an advocate. So that first shadow, you'll sit in the room and you'll just observe everything. The second shadow opportunity is you'll run the show. You'll have an advocate with you. But that's your opportunity to ask questions. Another advocate will be with you right there for any support. A nurse will be with you too. But once you do those 2 shadows, you can sign up for shifts, and everything is online. We've got an app. You're able to see all the open shifts. But yeah, once you do those 2 shadows, you're good to go and you're a certified advocate.
So those shadow assignments, those are for the forensic exams, and they take place either at one of our select hospitals or at our on-site forensic clinic, correct?
Yes, that's correct. So when you sign up for a shadow shift, you'll know your team. So we'll send out a text and we'll say, okay, the main advocate is Amy, the nurse is Catherine. So you'll know your team. So you'll always kind of know the situation. You'll know the hospital, you'll know where to go. So we prepare you as much as we can. So you're not blindsided. Oh, there's a 2 a.m. case. You'll know ahead of time. Yeah, so we try to give you as much information as possible.
So once you finish those shadows, then you're ready to choose either to be a hospital advocate or a crisis line volunteer. Is that right?
Yes, and we do even have some volunteers. They are all stars and they do both. Some people love everything. So they'll take a hospital shift and they'll take a crisis shift. They don't, not the same days, obviously, but they do both. And then we do have some that strictly like crisis because answering phones gives them anxiety. I get it. Or we have some volunteers that only do crisis and they never do hospital, which again, that is okay. Whatever you want to do, we will fully support you in doing that. Additionally, we do ask that our volunteers try to take 2 shifts per month. When we start and we're investing into you, we would like you to try to get as much experience as possible. So 2 shifts is ideal. We have some all-stars. I'm not going to name names, but we have an amazing volunteer who's taken up to 12 shifts a month, which that's unheard of, but he is passionate about our mission. And he's committed to taking 12 shifts a month. So by no means do you have to do 4, 5, 6, 2 is the request.
Oh, that's great. So can people email you to ask questions if they want to learn more?
Absolutely. Email is preferred. Any questions, please send them my way. There's a lot involved with advocacy training, and sometimes it can be kind of confusing. So anything that I could clarify, I can even send you an outline of training. Just, some people learn differently, and to see it in front of you is better, and it soaks in more. So I would be more than happy to provide any additional resources or information regarding training.
So your email address is alewis@theturningpoint.org.
Yes, and Lewis is spelled Lewis, just to clarify. alewis@theturningpoint.org. Please send any questions my way.
Great. And as always, you could also send it to info@theturningpoint.org, and that will get forwarded to Anna as well.
Yes.
Well, Anna, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and I hope we have some people who watch this video and reach out to you about volunteering.
Of
We'll
course.
be back.
Yay.
We'll be back here next week with Talk It Up Tuesday. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.